Welcome to ELT After Hours, where English teaching gets real. No buzzwords.
No sugarcoating, just two teachers unpacking what actually happens between theory and the classroom.
I'm Phil. I bring the classroom chaos and the real life stuff nobody puts in the methodology book.
I'm Ken. I'm bringing a methodology book and tons of academic research.
We don't always agree.
But we always go deep.
If you're tired of pretty slides and vague answers, you're in the right place.
So grab your tea, or don't, but let's talk.
Where did this start? So I think it was around Sunday. My boss, my partner, she's one of the biggest board game publisher in Vietnam. She wanted me to spread out my research, my writings about board games and how I use it to teach English, etc. So she advised me, or she just suggests to post on Spider Room. And she said that Spider Room, they have a really quite cool ideas or quite cool ways to organize your posts. So I say, okay, I have, posts, or at least I have read some stuff from Spider Room. Not the most avid fan, but still they are quite, how would you say it? Credible, right? Them and etc. So yeah, I just write a post. The funny thing is that Spider Room, um they prefer long form content, so you have to write a lot, like explain everything with a lot of details into it. So it took me like my first post just to figure out all of the interaction and how to extend my ideas. Took me around like 2 to 3 hours just for that piece of writing. I don't know. Yeah, yikes. But yeah, when I finish, I just post it and send her the link showing her that mission accomplished. She was quite happy with the post as well. But then, the next day, for some reason, I saw my post like on one of the headlines because, the newest post. But also like there's a comment. Let me check real quick. So the commenter, his account name is so it's kind of like translate into be nice so that you don't get banned.
That's
And
mounting.
yeah, be nice. Be nice a little so that you don't get banned. Which is quite ironic because the way he commented was so out of the pocket.
Yeah.
He said just like, why there's the needs to use game-based anyways. Just let your student use English and call it a day. Like, that's hurtful. But also at the same time, I know that he's kind of like a troll because like there's a big chunk of section in my writing that I say why or how game-based learning is effective towards students in bringing their motivation, giving them like an environment for them to use English without stress, without the fear of anything. But then he commented this, so oh my gosh, I really wanted to respond, but then think, like really have to think this must have been a troll. But yeah, and then out of curiosity, I went to his page and saw that he did write something. One post is about K-pop. Everyone has their own hobby, so kudos to that. And the other is about inquiry-based learning, which is, well, so he's technically some sort of a person who's into education or English education.
Yeah.
But then how can he, read a whole essay about a different approach and then he say, why the fuss? It's wild.
That's wild, yes. That's really wild. And
But yeah, that's the whole thing.
I actually just found your post in on Spider Room, and I found his account and I found his article too. It's
Well,
weird, but it's fun. I
yeah.
think, yeah, I think this comment, this perspective, it reflects a very big misunderstanding of a lot of people. And maybe this account is an example for a group of people because um first we fight and we argue a lot about how we should again, we mentioned this on our previous podcast. We talked about make learning fun, but sometimes when we want to integrate something like games, some activities, fun tasks into our learning, into our lessons, people judge. They don't like this. He said, just let them use English. That's all. But it is not that simple. It's not that simple, really.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you know what? It reminds me of a meme. Say, you're homeless, just buy a house. You're depressed, just be happy.
mm,
So yeah,
be poor,
that's
just be rich. It's easy.
yeah, just
It's
a
easy.
nothing burger.
Make money, easy. Um, so are you planning to reply to this comment?
Nah,
No?
yeah, I don't want to spend my energy on debating, you know,
Mm,
on I feels like this is just a dead end, you know. There's no outcome to that. I don't want to change his opinion. I don't want even to change my students' opinion,
mm,
actually. But yeah, it's just to show that when you bring your ideas out there, there might be a high chance of someone who kind of like deflect your ideas or, you know, calling you names or just belittle you. But that's the risk that we, as content creators, as teachers who want to share stuff, needs to prepare ourselves. And you know, it is what it is, you know. And
totally.
yeah, of course, I believe like when you share about dogma, EOT, or unblocked teaching, you must have met a lot of, you know, straight bullets or
Tell me
people
about it.
calling, yeah, talking down. So yeah,
Tell me about
yeah, why won't you know, just share a time like you experienced that?
it. So as you know, especially in our market, in our country, Dogme is not really popular. Not really, but it's not popular. Not many people use it, and not many people like believe that this approach, this method can work. Especially when you know, when the system forces students and teachers to depend on textbooks a lot. Um, so when I first shared and talked about Dogme, I think it was like 2 years ago, or my first post about Dogme was 2 years ago, as I remember. I received like so many questions asking me that. Really? So you are okay, I'll start from my students. A lot of students that newly registered for courses, they they have a lot of doubts. They questions a lot about the outcomes, yeah, and the results. What they will get, how can they transform without textbooks? That's the first. And when I share this to teachers, they ask a lot about how they will have doubts that if we go to our lesson, like if we come to our class without a lesson plan, it's not professional. it's unprofessional and it's
Mm.
irresponsible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a lot of doubts, but I was just okay. If you are used to textbooks, it's fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. But flying dogma is not irresponsible at all because you have to plan all the things. It's not planning the lesson based on the textbook anymore. It doesn't mean no planning equals no responsibility, but
Yeah.
dogma is built on a very clear principle. For example, imagine language. That means language that surfaces naturally through learner and teacher interaction. So you have to prepare a lot. You have to know about the topics. You have to know about your learners. You have to actively listening for the whole time to pick up some language points. To yeah, you have to be
Yeah.
present. And I see a lot of teachers nowadays. If you just plan everything on the slides, you're following the slides and you are teaching the slides, not your learners. A lot of people these days, they
uh,
just know about their slides and not knowing the learners at all. So that's the first thing. And I
yeah.
think
Well,
this, yeah,
yeah.
I think it makes me again, because the comments you shared on Spider Room, he also said something like, just let them use English. Partly, I agree with that. Partly, I agree with that. Just let them use English. That's one point of Dogme, right? That's one point of Dogme. But I think this guy or this, I don't know, his or her gender, whatever. I think
Yeah. Okay.
he is misunderstanding between gamification and game-based learning. Do you think so? Because a lot of people think like bringing games to your lessons means gamification. So they are like they're misunderstanding the concepts. That's why they have bias, and that's why they are arguing against this. I
Well,
think.
I don't think they know about gamification or game-based learning even. They just know, these are games. I
Mm,
use Kahoot, it's a game. I use Snakes and Ladders on Bamboozle, it's a game. It's just a game. So what do we do with game? We have fun with our students and then back to learning and that's it. And it's quite funny because at first I thought like so my my board game communities, whenever we as Vietnamese developers we pump out some games, introduce our games, you know what's the first thing people say?
okay, I'm ready.
They will criticize the game first. They will pick out holes of the games and
Mm,
point out like this is not polished, this is like garbage, stuff like that. I think everyone have the same mentality when it comes to every major, well, most of the major, because at first Scott Thornberry, he create Dogme, and then a lot of people criticize him and say, well, this is so irresponsible, like you mentioned before. So everyone starts with criticism.
yes.
Everyone starts with poking holes at stuff without, really pay attention or really take time to understand it. So
Mm,
I guess that's the human nature. And yeah, so coming back to games, like you said before, and hopefully anyone listening now can kind of like understand a little bit because when you use game inside your classroom, there's two ways to use it. And 80% of teachers these days, they follow the main path, which is gamification. So gamification is not game. It's just the idea that you gamify a lesson, a lesson idea or language skills or language sub skill, language area. You just gamify it. You give them fancy features of a game, such as leaderboard, such as points and penalties and all sort of things that went into a game. But at the end of the day, it's not a game, and everyone use it, and through Kahoot, Playground, Bamboozle. Yes, I think. Do, do you know why they know more about gamification than game-based learning?
Really?
Yeah.
I think I didn't honestly, I never thought about this. Like I never realized that they the term gamification is more popular. But true, huh? Because I saw like a lot of articles, for example, some workshop or some articles on Facebook or LinkedIn. They mentioned this term a lot, gamification, but I rarely saw game-based learning. I
See?
think you remember our what did we do last time? Like we were talking to Emma about something.
Yeah.
Our lunch and learn workshop. And then you
Yes.
mentioned this the difference between gamification and game-based. I didn't really care about it until you mentioned.
Hurtful.
Sorry, but it's true. Now, why? Is that a reason for it?
Yeah, of course. There's a big reason. Yeah. One of which is something that you just mentioned. Is the media coverage. You know, everyone,
As always.
yeah, everyone writes about gamification, and it creates kind of like a pseudo connection when everyone thinks of game. They think of, they even like subconsciously they create a connection with gamification, but in fact they miss out a big part, a big chunk of it, just game based. And to be honest, if you look down, the history line, game-based gamification is way earlier than game-based. Well, actually, gamification is more popular than game-based learning. So during gamification, the term, it got popularized by Nick Pelling. He is a programmer and game developer, and he used this term in 2002. But the very first records of gamification, I think it was somewhere between 1896 with the idea of S&H ring stamps. So S&H is a very, very old, how we say, supermarket chain, retailing chain. So whenever the customer goes in their change and buy stuff, they will receive these little stamps. And when they collect 10 stamps, they can redeem a product from a catalog. So just like these days, what we're doing at coffee shops. Go to a coffee shop, they give you a card. So whenever you buy stuff, they will put a stamp on it, and then, if you finish the whole thing, they give you something in return. So yeah, during the in 1896, very old, and in contrast, do you know how old is game-based learning?
Please don't make me do this. I'm the worst. I'm the worst. Math.
Well, just a big guess, just gotcha.
A decade? No, a decade. Sorry, a decade. It's not that long. 50 years?
Yes, that's right.
Really?
Not until 50 years ago they got popularized, or at least they got put into the mainstream through the name of game-based learning 50 years ago. But what even more like a tragic story is that game-based learning has been around older than gamification, dating back to the 5000 BCE. So as old as it gets, with the very first board game of Mancala. It's an African game, the equivalent of what we have here in Vietnam called Oan Quang.
On Wang.
Yes, that's right.
Interesting.
So yeah, and people say, well, it's just a board game, it's not game-based learning. So actually, a lot of Greek philosophers beg to differ because Aristotle and Plato, they mentioned that game or playing is a beneficial tool for education, even though there are a lot of ways to go through it. For Aristotle, Aristotle said that playing is more like, or board games or games in general is like an instrumental, seeing play as a form of relaxation that ultimately allows for better learning. And his student, Plato, he said that playing or gaming is a first step towards acquiring true knowledge. And then further down the line, we have a lot of games like even Mancala. They help people to learn mathematical thinking. With chess, they help people to learn strategic and tactical thinking. So overall, it's learning. So it's game-based learning, and yeah. So I don't know. It's just so sad that game-based learning has such a bad rep comparing to gamification.
Yeah, true. Because it's much like I think it's much deeper. And from what you just shared, especially mentioning playing game-based learning is quite ancient from Aristotle already. I think this proves play has always been cognitive, not just fun. But now talking about fun, from what I understand, and I think a lot of people too, gamification is about points, badges, and leaderboard. But game-based is the process of learning through structured play. Is that true from your
I,
knowledge and research?
I mean, you got the gamification down to the core of it. For game-based learning, to help you understand easier, it's just learning through the game itself. Usually with gamification, when we make a gamified lesson, we need a lesson first, right? And then
Yeah.
we, put in all of the game features around it. But as for game-based, the core is the game. And the educational features got, put into it later on down the line as we apply it to the classroom. So two different process of these two things. But yeah, through game itself.
So do you think if we are learning through the game itself, do you think for a gamified lesson it needs a structure? Do you think we need a structure for a game-based lesson plan?
Structure. How do you define structure?
Let's say a script, a lesson script, a lesson plan that is fixed.
I see.
Do you
I
really
mean,
need it or just spontaneously?
I mean, I think both of them need it, unlike Dogma. You need a whole a big lesson plan, especially, I think like game-based learning require a more detailed lesson plans because for gamification, it's just a part of a lesson, you just put game features into it. But at the end of the day, it's just a lesson and it's just, like every other steps that you have ever done as a teacher. But for game-based learning, for some people, it's like an untapped water. So precisely, more precisely, it's an uncharted water. where you don't know how to go through it, or so when you are studying, so you are teaching, but then you transit into a game. So
Mm,
how can you make that transition, or how can you manage the whole class? Because now the whole class is focusing on the game part, not the learning part. That's
mm,
some people may concern with. But for me, I think that yeah, actually I answered your question already. Game-based learning requires more preparation at first. For me, like when I first started using game-based learning in my classroom, usually it
mm,
took me around 2 hours to prepare everything, from just the game to the backup plans in case things go south, you know.
mm,
And but then, as my professor said, that if the first time takes you around 3 hours, and very tired, then the next time you do it, it will take you 2 hours and 50 minutes, and the third time 2 hours and 40 minutes. Goes on and on, and you will become more fluent into it. But
mm.
the key is that you have to be consistent.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
So
consistent with the technique, right? With the approach.
yeah.
I think it's somewhat related, and same with dogma. When you first apply the technique or the approach, it's difficult, of course, and not like you like spending 3 hours on the planning part, but when I first started dogma, I just applied it for a very, very small section of the lesson, like just 5 minutes for the warm-up part, and then maybe next lesson or in some period I'm gonna apply for 15 minutes to have a conversation trigger for my students.
Mm,
That's all.
yeah.
But yeah, everything takes time. I think here, uh, because after your sharing about game-based learning, I feel like there's a connection between game-based and dogma. It's I think these both techniques focus on intrinsic motivation,
Yeah.
which is really, really, for me, I find it meaningful because as a learner, but for us, I think we're not just teachers, but we are also learners. I think intrinsic motivation is very, very crucial if we want to, you know, um, be sustainable with and consistent with your own learning. Because when you have your intrinsic or when you are aware of it, you'll have your curiosity. You will have more meaningful communication or practice when you learn the language or when you learn anything. So that's why I think there's a connection between these two.
Mm.
And
And
the reason why I asked you,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the reason why I asked you about what? About structure, the structure of a game-based lesson is because I want to know if it's a good fit if we combine these two together. Because before it, I actually didn't use board game, but I used games. Of course, I used games. For example, some dominoes. Dominoes is also considered type of board game, right?
It's a board game.
It's a board game.
Yes.
I suck at it. But yeah, for example, domino and things like that. I feel like it's a really, really good start to lead you to Dogma after it. But I can't
Mm.
really imagine or I can't really know the flow of that lesson. So normally when you use game, uh, I saw you wrote an article about Dogma game-based learning. How do you compare it? No, sorry. How did you combine them together?
Mm. I mean, like earlier you mentioned, the both approaches tapped into the intrinsic motivation side of the learners, and yes, but they also tap into the authenticity of the lesson you're trying to bring to the students. Like one features I prefer in game-based learning, rather than gamification, is that everything is so natural, because now you don't need to force your lesson to be relatable. You don't force your lesson to be attractive towards your students, like in gamification. Game-based learning itself is attractive enough if you can pick the right games for the right, group of students. And each games, they have their own message, they have their own rules, they have their own themes. So automatically, it attracts students. It gives students motivation itself in the games already. So, it's so easy at that point. But yeah, I so the first time that session was I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. No, actually a month ago. Like at the beginning of July, I remember. So during that time, I did some research about Dogma, and for some reason, it's just that, like, in my mind, I was thinking like, what do I need to prepare? What do I need to equip to do this? But in fact, what I got from Scott Thornberry is that nothing. You you just need to prepare nothing.
Yes.
You just need to prepare. Like I really like from the way how you put it. You just need to prepare, reignite your reflexes and the way how you feel the pedagogical features in what you are saying, in what you are trying to have in the conversation with your students. So yeah, I love that, and it's really surprised me when it fits so well with game-based learning. Usually, when I bring a game-based, a board game inside a classroom and have, a lesson surround it, I need to prepare a lot, like lesson plan wise, structure wise, vocabulary wise, worksheets or sorts. But thanks to the idea of Dogma, I don't need to do those things. We sit down, say, hey, everyone, let's talk something about, what did you eat today? What's your favorite food? What's food you dislike the most? And then, speaking of food, let's play a game about food. And then, it start rolling and say, hey, teacher, what's this word? Like, I'll write it down. So this word is, bamboo shoot. Uh, and everyone say bamboo shoot. And everyone, when you place a card down, you need to say bamboo shoot if that's the case. So yeah, it flows so well together. I guess it's because of the common ground these two approaches have, authenticity and intrinsic motivation. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we both agree that um they both like these both techniques grounded in authenticity. What did you mention the word? What did you mention? Authenticity and yeah, intrinsic
Yeah, intrinsic
motivation.
motivation.
I think one more after you share this. When you mentioned when you applied Dogme, you prepare nothing. I think that's the beauty of Dogme. Um, Preparing nothing is your preparation because
Mm,
you have to you have to again be present because you have to activate your reflexive.
mm,
Everybody keeps talking about okay improving and developing students reflexive in communication or in speaking. However, we rarely mention reflexive of teachers. We do need it. Like if we really, really want to make meaningful conversation, communication in our classroom, especially
mm,
like to show our students the importance of um the interaction between human and human, students and students, teacher and students, we have to be aware of it.
If I remember correctly, you were talking about how dogma and game-based learning go together.
This yeah, I was talking about the connection and the similarity between these two.
Mm.
Yes, authenticity and intrinsic motivation. And I figured out one more actually. I was talking about it. Um, a lot of people think dogma is chaotic, and well, true. It feels like when they're used to um lesson plans down to each minute. But personally, after applying it and after realize some core key insights of Dogme, I think it's structured, but in a different way. And I think for games, I think it's the same. When I first like researched about games because I had a period of teaching offline classes, and I at that time I already not hated, but I was already bored of using textbooks, so I was thinking about designing a complete new course that used games only, board games only.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I was looking into it, and it was really, really chaotic. Like it was so difficult for me to, choose the games and then um, design the syllabus that used game only for it, exactly like Dogma. But at that time, I didn't learn much about Dogma, and I was new to this industry, so I was pretty scared. So I didn't do it. So yeah, I think that's another connection between Dogma and game. I think it's very chaotic. How about
Yeah,
you, as someone who's in,
it's yeah. So I mean, like it's like a sea out there, like an
yeah,
ocean
yeah,
of options for you.
exactly.
If I remember correctly, when I did like a conference in Thailand like last year, uh, I did go through some statistics with board games, and until the beginning of 2024, like the start of the year, there were more than like 150,000 published titles for games. So 150,000 published games alone. And here we are not talking about print and play games. We are not talking about unofficial games, or extension games. We're not talking about that. So if we take into account of those games, I believe it would well be around 300,000 or something. Yeah. So yeah. So I guess that when the idea of using game base is quite tricky for new teachers because it requires the teachers to have, well, it needs the teachers to play game first, you know.
Mm,
The teachers needs to be a gamer first to
exactly.
understand like what games hook, what games suitable, and what games will take a lot of time. So yeah, for you, but for myself, back when I was like in my primary school years, like my mom bought a PC, but for her stuff, not mine. But I got to play some of the games on there, like those classic PopCap games. And then when I got to I believe grade 4 or grade 5, I got my own PC, and in the PC there's like a bunch of classic games, more than 1,000 games for me to play. So I believe that's when I got hooked into the gaming field. And further down the line during my junior high, there was video game stores near my house. They opened it and they sell CDs or CDs of games, a lot of games. And I went out there, I bought like a CD for $10,000, which awesome.
Thousand?
And
Yeah, it was
yeah,
a lot.
10,000 for a game, for a CD of game actually. You buy that and you go home and you install the game and you play it. Like my God, this is my whole childhood up there. But yeah, and not until my ninth ninth grade that I got into board games. Back at that time, my school has like a special English program where we got to learn with a native speaker.
Active speakers,
And
yeah.
one of those teachers, he was from America. And for some reason, I got along with him very well because at that time I had consumed enough pop culture reference so that whenever he tell a joke, I get it, but not my friends.
Mhm.
So I was the only one who laughed at his joke. So he appreciate that, and he invited me over his like English center or his place. We got to learn English, we got to play board games, and that's the real moments when I become like a true gamer, with
Mm,
video games and board games all together, like games every day. And yeah, and it helps me to understand which game you can use with students, which games you can use with adults, which games is suitable for young learner. So I think that's the same thing with Dogma, because to be fluent in Dogma, you need to be fluent in the language as well. And you need to be like a real person having a conversation and know like how to extract ideas, extract lesson from the itsy bitsy conversation parts. So yeah, it's quite similar.
yeah,
But
totally.
the two fields that we are working in requires an extensive idea behind it.
Mm,
So, like you said, I guess you didn't play a lot of games growing up. That's why
why?
you.
Because I look bored. Like, how can you tell? What am I
Well,
screaming? That make you make that assumption.
I don't know because like you said, like there's a sea of games out there, and you don't know where to start, and yeah, it's just
No, it's
that
true.
hunch,
True.
that
It's
hunch.
true. Well, I thought I already hit it well, but yeah, it's true. I didn't play a lot of games. I actually didn't even play board games that much. Vietnamese board games, not really too.
Uh,
I grew up as just a very dreamy girl sitting in my room watching Disney Channel. That's all. So that's why.
well,
But what
yeah.
what you mentioned was I completely agree with it. If you want to use games, especially games in teaching, you have to play games. You have to know about um all the rules, all the game types, blah blah. You really have to know about it. And second, same for Dogme. Um, if you want to master this technique, it's not just about teaching anymore. It's about languages. And mostly it's about your communication skill, which I think a lot of teachers don't really pay attention or think that this matters. But this matters, your communication skill. You have to know how to actively communicate with other people, not with your students, but with other people. So you can like catch all the ideas and all your students' ideas immediately. It's very, very
Mm,
important. Very
yeah,
interesting. But
yeah.
yeah, it's really difficult to start with game. I think our starting point for Dogman and using games in teaching, the starting point is really struggling. Do you agree? starting
I
point is
mean,
really struggling.
yeah. So I think yes, struggling maybe. Uh I have
But
a lot
not
of
for you, right?
students. Well, I mean like everyone. Not just me, but everyone have quite a difficult starting point. But I think because these sources or these approaches, they require us being authentic. Last time we talked about being authentic already. It's like more of how you reflect yourself onto the surrounding environments
Yeah.
more than what you take in. So for example, my students, I think like I remember there was a kid like he was around grade 4, grade 5.
Mm.
When he first started in our class, he was very shy. He didn't use a lot of English, use a lot of Vietnamese to translate his ideas out towards us, the teachers. But through a summer course, we got to play together a lot. We got to watch a lot of videos, movies, talk about it, read books, and just out of the blue, like when he got into grade 6, he spoke like almost fluent English. We were so surprised by that, and we kind of like in your free time, what did you do? What do you do in your free time? And he said like, in my free time, I got my mom to bought me an iPad, so I watch PewDiePie, a very famous YouTuber, streaming his game, and watch him play the games, using English. And my student himself, also played the games that PewDiePie introduced. So that's why he picked up the language so quick, you know. And I guess it's just being natural, let things be. The only thing you need to do is just trying to find chances and opportunities to like bask yourself into the environment that use whatever you want to hack in. So for me, or even for you, like just try games, just play games and see where it takes you. And yeah, I remember you shared with me that it's always your plans for next year to go to Da Nang, right? So that's the same destination for me as well. So hopefully, like when we cross paths, like every day or at least every week, I will try to take you out for gaming sessions, to help you catch up with your missing childhood.
Yeah, true. Sorry, sorry. I'll turn off my camera for 5 seconds.
Yeah,
Um,
no worries.
yeah, well, I think everybody needs to start somewhere. Very true. Especially for me. Yes, I need to make up for my boring childhood.
I
Um,
mean, not really. But yeah, it's just fun, and it's just you having fun. And there's a lot of studies showing that when we, especially like teachers, when we have fun, when we have freedom or creative ideas, it's best for us to have time to reflect, have time for ourselves. That's
yes.
when we come up with the most ideas. That's when we come up with brand new things for our classrooms,
No,
which
true.
not many teachers have these days. You always get into like lesson after lesson after lesson,
Yeah.
you know, from
And then
Monday to Sunday. Like,
it's like a
gosh,
hell loop.
yeah,
Really,
I
it's like a
know.
hell loop. Less ending, lesson planning. And but yeah, when they are in this hell loop, when they are used to planning lessons by lesson, um, I think this is also the reason. Well, me for Dogme, we both know that not many teachers. I think there are only like a very, very small, there's a very small number of teachers that are using Dogme, that are applying Dogme. And for game, what do you think? Do you think it's like there's a good number for teachers who are using it? No, right? I don't
Well,
think so.
well, uh, I mean, like I told you before, like Well, there's a very high chance
Mm,
if you say you use games inside your classroom. There's a high chance it's gamifications, not game-based learning. Yeah,
yes,
and yeah, quite frankly, it's not.
sure.
Rarely you would see teachers use games as game itself and have students learn from that.
Mm,
I think again the whole model or the whole structure come from the US and comes from all the Western countries. So it's still brand new here in like not just in Vietnam, actually, it's brand new in Southeast Asia as well.
yes.
Because when I, brought my whole research all the way to Thailand and share about it, like people will say, hmm, this is new. I never tried this with my classroom. So, the time was a real eye opener for me because wow, I thought this just something Vietnam are unfamiliar with, but actually it's not.
Mm, yeah,
Everyone
yeah.
in the
I
region.
think in Southeast Asia, not just in Vietnam, because maybe the cultural norms, things like it. But yeah, I think for both, even dogma or game-based learning, um, the reason why aren't more teachers doing this is, I think fear, like the fear of looking unprepared or
Mm,
the fear of losing control when you use
mm,
a box of game in your lesson. A lot of
I see.
people are scared of this, or a lot of people are scared of, okay, going to the classroom with bare hand with only a marker or something. People will judge them or blah blah blah. And I think a lot of teacher training focuses on performance only, but
Yeah.
not facilitation. But in these days, being a facilitator in your classroom is even more important than being a teacher. Students now they have a lot of ways to learn. They let's be frank, they don't really need you. They don't really need your teaching, but they need more of your facilitation.
Mm,
Like they want you to again for both game based and dogma. I think the presence, I mentioned this word so many times today, but the presence and the improvisation of teacher are very, very, very important, especially, but yeah, for both, not especially for any, but for both. For dogma, of course, you have to be there and you have to improvise with everything happening in your classroom. Game based, I think also because a lot of things can happen when a group of people sit down and playing some cards or some games, any game. So I
mm,
think and you also need a strong sense of the vibe I can handle whatever happens. So I think that's why both dogma or game based demand vulnerability from
yeah.
that from that. Also authenticity,
I'm
like you mentioned.
Yes. I remember a lot during my time in university because I there are some professors they told us that they can teach us almost anything, just almost,
Mm,
because one thing that they cannot teach us is the improvisational skills
yeah.
and the way how we respond on the spot to the certain situations So that's really, I took it really to the heart because now I cannot learn from them. Like, where can I learn from? It's just that I learn from myself. I learn from the mistakes. I remember countless time where I kind of like the idea that I could have done better in, handling the situations. It's sometimes it keeps me up at night, but it's a good way for us to learn, good way for us to improve ourselves because if we don't get out of our comfort zone, then how can we roll, basing on
Yes,
Vygotsky, ZBD, stuff like that.
true,
So yeah, and
true, true.
I
Very
don't,
true.
yeah, I don't know. Do you think that because of these days peer pressure that people scared to show their mistakes or to put themselves in situation where they may get, mistakes?
Hmm. Peer pressure, I think, well, plays a very big role here. But I think also, I just had this talk with my student this morning. Actually, she is she is already building something. Like she's also working in education, and she is already operating a project for Vietnamese students, Vietnamese people to continue their learning pathway. But she now she she's still scared when she shows up, or when she shares something, or when she does something, because she is afraid of being judged if she makes mistakes. This is very harsh. Like, because of our how can I say, criticism culture,
Mm,
uh we are criticized a lot if we when we do something that makes us play small. Like, we
mm,
are playing smaller and smaller, and we shrink ourselves, and we are afraid to try things because making mistakes equals being criticized. So I think that's why, like, now not many people are like are willing to try to make mistakes. That's very
mm.
hard.
I mean, like, it's also because for me, I think it has something to do with our profession, being a teacher. You always think teacher is like the perfect role model,
Yes.
someone who can never make mistakes. And even if, teachers make mistakes, it's your mistakes, not teachers. So I hear that a lot. So I don't know. I also remember the time when I was so struggled in, taking, the responsibility of my own doing. And even to the point, like some of my friends at that time, when I was even younger than now, I taught them and they pointed out to me and I refused to take in, criticism or, accept that I was wrong. So they pointed out like, huh, is this like every teachers because they never take the blame for themselves? And the same thing there. I remember even further down the line, during my high school, I remember there's a lot of time I kind of correct my teachers, in a respectful way. So I remember she said that the elevator. So she said something relating to another word. There's another word for elevator, and I say, oh, actually, it's a lift. And she said, no, the lift is the escalator. So like, yeah, kind of like I did try to, you know, attempt to go back and forth with that, but my friends say, I was wrong. The teacher is always right. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
now I'm in the position. So it's not just because of us, it's because of the culture. It's because of everything around us. Always believe that the teachers knows best. The teachers is, the center of the universe.
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, and it enforced the idea within us that we can never make mistakes or we never allow us to be in the position of making a mistakes. So yeah, that's tough. Uh,
Yes. True. Yeah, I totally agree. It's the impact of a lot of external factors when we talk about this. And exactly like you said, like, for me, after applying Dogme, only after applying Dogme, I have more room to do more reflection on my teaching. because that's what you need to do. It's like it's reverse planning, I think. For Dogme, you need like it's a must to reflect after the lesson, because you have to know, okay, if you had another chance, what would you do in that situation? What would you do if that student spoke something like that?
Yeah.
So you will have more scenarios, maybe just in your imagination, but you will have more scenarios. You'll come up with even better solutions for each scenario. And I think with those, with all those reflections, of course, you'll change your teaching perspective. You will look at teaching in a very, very different way. So I think that's why, like, Dogme is not a prescription for everything, of course, but it changes a lot, not just for your mm, teaching perspective, but also as a human being, like how you interact with other people. I mean,
Yeah.
what if you are not perfect, and what if you don't control every moment, or what if you trust that something even more relevant might happen if you just be there and listen to your students? So yeah, I think it's it's time to like redefine what good teaching looks like. It's not perfection, like you mentioned. It's like it's not being a role model, but it's more like mm, being a fellow to your students, to
Yeah.
be there with them and to
Mhm.
grow with them.
Yeah.
I think that creates even a better connection between you and your students.
Yeah. The
And for
same. The same.
example, yeah, game based too. You have to be hands on. You have to be there, like to run the game, to play it, to be there to listen to everything with your students.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see, to be honest, I'm really curious to see like uh what a game-based learning classroom look like in 60 or 90 minutes. I'm really curious.
I mean, I always do, every bi-weekly Sunday, I have these sessions that I sit down with a whole class of usually university students or freshly graduated
Mm,
people, just to sit down and practice English with them through the games and apply all sort of things that they can learn from a game. And it's a part of my research. But yeah, when I moved to Da Nang, I was doing the same thing. Then you can see firsthand, or even join the session with us and experience it firsthand.
definitely.
But yeah, you mentioned like pretty cool ideas when because of the pressure and because of the prerequisite ideas the society puts on teachers, we are so hard to break free from
Yes,
the illusion that we have to be perfect. So that keep us from becoming better. And totally agree with you. For my part, like these days, or in the past few years, whenever I take in a class, whenever I come to class, I always tell them like, "Hey, we are in this to study together. I'm not better than you, and you can always learn things from me, and vice versa. And we are here to learn from each other." So that means that I can say things that are incorrect, and you are encouraged to, question my knowledge. That's the only way that we can learn better. Not just me telling stuff for you only, but I want to listen from you as well. So that's also like the key part where my all of my classes is very energetic. It's always like two ways conversation, and to some teachers it may be a little bit hectic, but that's how my class goes. Everyone's happy, everyone learns the best, and there's no need to hide anything. They always come to me to ask for advice, to share stuff that they don't usually share with their parents, with their friends. And during those times, I love that. I feel very, I don't know, I feel very lucky to be in the
Yeah,
position where they believe us, teachers, enough to open up with all sort of things. So yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's
In your case, there's two students, or your like teens or maybe university students.
yeah.
It's lovely. It's lovely when those babies, those teens come up to you and share something with you. It's really
Yes,
hard
it's
to
wild.
encourage them to do this.
Yeah,
Yes,
because they
exactly.
are at the age of they don't want to share anything. They are at
Yeah,
the age of, fighting against the world.
exactly.
So so sometimes it surprised me a lot because the most rebellious students tend to be the one who, need to be listened the most.
Yes.
So I remember there's a lot of times when, the class finish, everyone's, already go home and I tell the staff like, hey, you can go home early. I
Mm,
can stay around and close the door for you, so I can use those time to wait for the students or wait for the parent students to pick them up, the
mm,
students' parent pick them up, and have conversation with them, because being authentic is like, you are not a teacher, you are another human being, and you are, being someone that they can talk to, not just someone they need to listen to,
yes,
so when you create that connection with your students, showing them you are very authentic, you don't need to do anything else. They will, always gravitate towards you, and everyone can learn from each other. So I think that's the best case scenario when having your own classes.
exactly, exactly. Same for me too. Like I teach adults, but some of it because again I use Dogme. Now I already teach my all the textbooks. Um, for some lessons, they even share that they just broke up with their partner. Like
Yes.
sometimes, yeah, I keep telling my friends that I feel like I'm kind of like their private therapist. I'm not a teacher anymore because they share a lot of things. Like they even start the conversation like I haven't told anyone, but so after that, but I was like, okay, another story of your life. But yes, I feel really grateful when you can like when you can create a really really safe zone for your students and for your situation too. You are activating their curiosity a lot. If they ask questions or if they just simply come up to you, they are curious. They are curious about your professional knowledge and your personal perspectives in some situation too. But I think that's what our field ELT needs more of. More
Yeah.
curiosity, more play, like play with the language, play with the interaction with each other, more presence, authenticity,
Hmm.
and maybe less method, loyalty. I know that you are really into researching, but I think to have meaningful like things like that,
Yeah.
it doesn't come from methods. Any method or any academic approaches. It comes from
Mm.
you and your students. It comes
Yeah.
from the connection.
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, these days, new methods, they are always have the idea of being like a methodless method. It's
Methodless
more,
method.
yeah, it's more of, being real or, associate themselves with real life things. So, or like even game-based learning is technically is that you don't need to prepare anything. You learn from the game itself, so you don't need to prepare. And all sort of things with reality-based learning or with authentic learning, all sort of new approaches, new methods. They are just as real as it gets. No academic at all. So we do this. just academic research. That's just a name, but we just kind of like put the dots together to show that they are authentic. They are, they don't require a lot of stuff. You just be
Mm,
there as real as yourself with your students. Yeah.
yeah, beautiful. But you just meant that fully for game based, you don't even need to prepare much. Right now, I am curious. You see, you're really good at this, like activating people's curiosity. Maybe in our next session, can you talk more about it? For Dogme, of course, you don't have to prepare, but for game based, I this is really new for me. So
Yeah,
maybe,
totally.
yes, next session. Okay, I have to note this down, or else I'll totally forget this. So here I will say, Ken will talk about.
Jeez, a lot of pressure.
No. Honestly, I'm very curious because I think like you have to prepare a lot of things, language points, and then things like it in.
I mean, you can do that, but the core value of game-based learning is not prepare anything. It's just have them play it, have them
Okay.
bask in real language. So yeah,
Mm, interesting. Interesting. So that's a promise. Next session.
yeah,
Okay. Um. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good wrap up from both of us.
yeah.
Yes.
Woohoo! Second episode. Well, thank you everyone for listening, and stay tuned for next episode, which
Yeah, we have.
will not take us 2 or 3 weeks, hopefully.
Gosh, that was really promising. But yeah, thank you everyone for your listening, and I'll see you guys in our next episode.